Memory. It's the key to our identity.
Without memory, we're nothing.
It's who we are.
Memory hackers. Right now.
For those of you who like my Facebook page, you might recall that a few weeks ago I mentioned that my beautiful daughter has become engaged to a nice young man who assists at the Latin Mass. And since that time I've learned a few things about weddings. The first thing is the observation that 100% of the people that I've told about this engagement at work have asked me, where do they live? Meaning, where does the engaged couple live? And they all assume that the couple is already living together. And I just tell them that my daughter lives at home and her fiance lives in the city. But it appears that nowadays this arrangement is actually considered unconventional. My wife and daughter have mercifully left me out of the bridal dress selection process. However, I have picked up a few things with all of the activities going on. My wife and daughter tell me that it's extremely difficult to even find a modest wedding dress. And they tell me that when they go into a bridal shop and ask to see a modest dress, that request seems to confuse the salespeople, and it's almost as if the salespeople are thinking, why would you want that? And my wife and daughter have texted me some photos along the way of dresses, and frankly, a lot of the ones that are available look something like what a prostitute on a street corner might wear. And it seems that young women nowadays are demanding dresses that attempt to balance a hint of innocence with whorishness, and I don't think that's possible to pull off. But in past centuries, brides didn't have the disposable income that young women nowadays seem to have. So usually when young women got married, they typically just wore the nicest dress that they owned, regardless of whatever color or style it might have been. Though some wedding dresses were white, that would have been an unusual color choice. According to the Catholic Encyclopedia, it's proper for the priest to wear white vestments at a nuptial mass. White is the color proper for the nuptial mass, also in services in connection with the Blessed Sacrament, at the burial of children, in the administration of baptism, holy viaticum, and matrimony. The color white is associated with martyrs and with Jesus. But Jesus is the bridegroom and the church is his bride. Maybe it would be more appropriate for grooms to wear white instead of brides. So, when any thought in the past was put into the color of a wedding dress, it usually was not white. What is the color of purity? Nowadays, most people would probably say white, but for most of history, the color blue has been considered to be the color of purity. And that's why we always see the Blessed Mother usually depicted as wearing blue in sacred art. So especially in the age of faith, whenever brides did have the money to purchase a special dress for their wedding day, they more than likely would wear a blue dress in honor of the Blessed Mother. But all that changed in 1840. You see, before the United States got really good at messing up Christianity and anything to do with Christian symbolism, England had been perfecting that art for centuries. On February 10th of 1840, Queen Victoria married Prince Albert. And it's hard to understand why Catholics would have taken much notice of this, but they did. And the reason it seems strange that Catholics would take any notice of this is that England was a virulently anti-Catholic country. Prince Albert had to prove conclusively that he was a Protestant and not a Catholic before any marriage could even take place. His Protestantism had to be affirmed officially by Parliament. But let's take a little look at the backstory of this wedding. According to some sources, Prince Albert, being a tough guy and all, cried when he left home in Germany to marry Queen Victoria. However, it probably seemed all worthwhile after the wedding when Parliament handed him over a bonus of 1 million British pounds, and that would be a little less than 100 million pounds when adjusted for inflation today. Prince Albert won the lottery. Before the wedding, Queen Victoria sent out ambassadors all over the world to make drawings of dresses and to procure various patterns and figures that she might choose to have her wedding dress made. When the dress was made, the cost of the lace alone was 1,000 British pounds, which, considering the rate of inflation nowadays, that would cost 95,820 pounds. And remember, that was just for the lace alone. So did this extremely expensive wedding gown reflect any established traditional Catholic symbolism? Well, remember, these people did not like Catholicism or anything suggesting rich Catholic symbolism. Victoria and Albert were troubled by the efforts of adherents of the Tractarian or Oxford movement of the 1830s and 1840s to reintroduce in the Church of England such Roman Catholic practices as the veneration of the saints, the use of the sign of the cross, the chanting of the liturgy, the practice of oral confession, and priestly administration of penance and absolution. So this anti-Catholic monarch, Queen Victoria, selected a white dress for her wedding gown, and at that time that would have been very unconventional. But back then, just like now, it seemed that everyone wanted to imitate what the royals were doing, even Catholics. So even Catholics wanted to chase after what was fashionable, and they started to wear white bridal gowns. And somehow, shortly afterward, white and not blue became known as the color of purity. And this is all because of an anti-Catholic monarch trying to do something different and then people trying to imitate her. So, what would make more sense? To suggest to your daughter to chase after passing fads and imitating that anti-Catholic monarch and wear a white dress for a wedding? Or should your daughter at least consider wearing a blue dress, the color of purity, in honor of the Blessed Mother? And please note that it seems nowadays that if a young woman wanted to purchase a modest blue wedding dress, she'd have a hard time finding it, and her best bet would go to a Muslim bridal shop. And that's probably an irony and a commentary on our times. Well, I hope you enjoyed this installment. We'll be back again in about a week with another one. But in the meantime, please check out my Facebook page, which is linked down below. Every day I post content that you won't find on this YouTube channel. And please, pray for the church.
And if you like the blue, I said, if you like the blue, I think we can.